Imagine being locked inside a room with your friends. You laugh at the puzzles, the dim lights, the creepy decorations. But what if the fear you feel isn't part of the game? What if you can't get out, and the clock is ticking on your life? My name is the Tales Keeper, and tonight we're diving into 5 escape room short stories where the horror turned real. Some ended in tragedy, others remain unexplained. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a horror story. Also, don't forget to put those headphones on for best audio experience. Now, let's unlock the door. Shall we? Story 1. The Fire in Poland, year 2019. It was supposed to be the perfect birthday. 5 teenage girls, all best friends, laughing as they signed the waiver at a small escape room in Koszalin, Poland. The theme was simple. A dark, puzzle-filled chamber where they had to outsmart the evil and escape before the timer ran out. The game master locked the heavy door behind them. That was part of the experience. You're trapped. You have to think your way out. At first, it was nothing but giggles and screams. They moved around the dimly lit room, solving riddles by flashlight. The atmosphere was thick with fun tension. One girl joked, "Imagine if something actually went wrong." But then it did. A faint smell, a hiss, then smoke. Thick, dark, and fast. The girls looked at each other nervously. Was this part of the game? Was it special effects? But when the air grew heavy and their throats burned, they knew. They pounded on the locked door. They screamed for the game master to open it. But no one came. Outside, a fire had erupted in the waiting area, quickly spreading toward their room. The staff scrambled with keys, fumbling, panicking. The locks jammed. The door refused to open. Inside, the girls pressed against the walls, coughing, clawing at the air that was running out. One clutched her phone, trying to call for help, but the smoke stole the words from her mouth. By the time firefighters arrived and broke down the door with axes, the timer had already reached 0. The girls never made it out. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Poland. The escape room was shut down immediately, and new laws were passed. Escape rooms could no longer lock participants inside. Safety inspections became mandatory across the country. But for the families of those 5 girls, the rules changed too late. The locked door that was supposed to be part of the fun became their prison. And in the silence of that abandoned building today, people say you can still hear pounding on the door, like a game that never ended. Story 2. The gas leak in Budapest, Hungary, the birthplace of escape rooms. Tourists from all over the world came here to try the originals, themed puzzles hidden underground in old cellars and basements. One winter night, a group of university students booked a horror-themed escape game. The setup was perfect. A cold basement, brick walls, low flickering lights. A fake boiler hummed in the corner to sell the atmosphere. The game began normally. They laughed as they searched for hidden keys, whispered nervously at creaking pipes, and worked together to solve riddles on the walls. But then, something changed. One of the students paused. He rubbed his temples. "Do you guys feel that? The air feels heavy." Another chuckled, thinking it was part of the game. "Yeah, they're pumping in creepy effects. It's smart." But soon the laughter stopped. One by one, the group began to feel dizzy. Their movements slowed. Their hands trembled as they tried to turn puzzle locks. The shadows on the wall seemed to bend unnaturally, their eyes blurring. And then, one collapsed. At first, they thought it was an act. Maybe he was pretending, trying to freak them out. But his face was pale, lips turning blue. The others panicked, banging on the basement door, screaming for the game master. The boiler wasn't a prop. It was real, and it was leaking carbon monoxide into the sealed underground room. Every breath they took was poison. Upstairs, the staff finally noticed the cameras. The players weren't solving puzzles anymore. They were stumbling, clawing, trying to drag their unconscious friend toward the locked door. The operator's smile faded. He grabbed the emergency keys, fumbling to unlock it. When the heavy door creaked open, a wave of toxic air hit him like a wall. He dragged the gasping students out one by one, their bodies limp, coughing violently as paramedics were called. They survived, barely. The owner was fined and the escape room shut down. But for those students, the horror never really left. Because even years later, they swore they could still remember the smell. The faint, metallic taste in the air. And the moment they realized the fear wasn't a game, it was the air they were breathing. Story 3, The Missing Girl in California, California, 2017. A group of friends booked a late-night horror escape room for fun. The theme was the abandoned asylum. When they arrived, the building already looked unsettling. Faded paint, barred windows, and a neon escape sign flickering in red above the entrance. Inside, the lobby was decorated with old wheelchairs and medical props. The operator explained the rules. Work together, solve the puzzles. The doors will open when you succeed. The game began. Dim lights flickered overhead. Audio recordings of screams and whispers filled the narrow halls. The group split up to search the asylum set for clues. That's when one of the girls, her friends later called her Emily, wandered off toward a side corridor. She had found a door that looked slightly ajar. They figured it was part of the game, maybe a secret passage. But when the others regrouped minutes later, Emily wasn't there. At first, they laughed. They thought the game had kidnapped her. Maybe an actor had dragged her to a hidden chamber. So they played along, continuing the puzzles. But when the last lock clicked open and the lights came on, Emily was still missing. Panic set in. The staff checked every chamber, every crawl space, every hidden passage. Nothing. So they pulled the security footage. On the monitor, they saw Emily walking with the group into the escape room. She explored for a while, searched some drawers, even smiled at the camera once. But halfway through the feed, she turned a corner and never came back out. There was no footage of her leaving, no evidence of her walking back past the cameras. It was as if she simply vanished. The police searched the building. They broke open the walls, inspected every vent, even dug into rumors about the property itself. Some locals whispered that the asylum wasn't just a theme. It had been a real psychiatric ward, shut down decades earlier after a fire. Beneath it, there were sealed tunnels no one had touched in years. Was Emily unlucky enough to find one? Did she stumble into a passage no one knew existed? Or was she taken by something else? The case remains unsolved. The escape room was closed shortly after, its business license revoked. But online, the legend of Emily lingers. People claim the building is cursed, that the missing girl was claimed by the asylum itself. And here's the eerie part. Some guests who snuck in after it closed say they still hear footsteps running through the halls. A girl's voice whispering for help. But when they follow the sound, The halls are always empty. Story 4. The moving walls in Japan. Tokyo, Japan. A new escape room had just opened in the heart of the city, promising to be the most advanced horror experience ever built. It wasn't just puzzles and locks. This room was alive. The walls themselves shifted and moved, creating a labyrinth that constantly changed shape. At first, it was brilliant. Players marveled at how the floor plan rearranged in front of their eyes. Corridors opened, dead ends closed, and it felt like they were trapped in a living, breathing nightmare. But on one particular night, the technology failed. A group of college students entered, excited for the challenge. The first 20 minutes were fun, running through narrowing hallways, laughing nervously as the walls seemed to close behind them. But then the system malfunctioned. Instead of resetting, the walls kept moving, kept closing, and they didn't stop. At first, the students thought it was part of the scare. The space grew smaller, tighter, pressing their shoulders together. They laughed nervously until one of the girls screamed. Her arm was pinned between two steel panels that refused to stop. She cried out in agony as the wall kept pushing, snapping bone with a sickening crack. Panic erupted. The group banged on the walls, begging the game master to stop the system. But upstairs, the staff watched through the cameras and thought it was an act. Players screaming, thrashing, crying. It looked like great immersion. Minutes felt like hours as the walls pressed closer. The air grew hot, the red emergency lights flashing in rhythm with their pounding hearts. One boy vomited from fear. Another tried to wedge a chair between the panels, but the metal crushed it to splinters. Finally, someone realized something was wrong. The operator slammed the emergency stop and the machinery froze. The staff rushed in to find the group shaking, huddled together, drenched in sweat and tears. The girl's arm hung twisted, bones broken, her face pale with shock. They survived, but none of them were the same afterward. In interviews, the players admitted they still had nightmares, dreams of walls pressing in, of spaces shrinking, of air being squeezed from their lungs. The escape room shut down quietly, rebranded, and reopened under a new name. But the legend stuck. Some say if you book the right room late at night, the walls still move on their own. Not because of the system, but because the building itself remembers. Story 5. The actor who didn't work there. Russia. This escape room was famous for going all out. Not just puzzles and props. Actors were hired to stalk, chase, and terrify the players. The theme was a slasher maze. Dim corridors, fake blood splattered on the walls, mannequins dressed like corpses, and masked killers jumping out of the dark. For one group of friends, it was supposed to be a thrill. They paid for fear, and they got it. The moment the lights dimmed, a man in a grotesque mask appeared holding a knife. He lunged and the players screamed, laughing as they scattered deeper into the maze. But something was wrong. The knife gleamed too sharply under the light. The way he swung it, wild, forceful, wasn't like the rehearsed actors they'd seen before. Still, the friends thought it was part of the act. That was until one of them fell. The masked figure cornered him and slashed. Blood splattered across the wall. This wasn't stage blood. The screams this time weren't part of the game. The others froze, their laughter turning into primal terror. They ran, crashing into props and mannequins, shouting for help. The injured player clutched his arm, crimson pouring through his fingers. Security cameras picked it up immediately. The operator's face went pale. This wasn't one of their employees. The staff rushed in, tackling the masked figure. When they ripped off the mask, it wasn't a familiar face. It wasn't anyone on payroll. He had slipped in through an emergency exit left unguarded, blending in with the actors until the perfect moment to strike. The injured player survived, but the scar remained permanent. The escape room shut down, and the story spread online like wildfire. And here's the detail that chills players most. The man never explained himself. He never said a word in court. Not a motive. Not a reason. Just silence. To this day, players in horror-themed escape rooms still whisper the same fear. What if the next actor chasing you isn't part of the game? What if the mask hides something real? Because the scariest monster is the one that isn't supposed to be there. Escape rooms are built for fun, a place to test your wit, to laugh nervously with friends as the timer ticks down. But these stories remind us that sometimes the danger isn't in the puzzles or the riddles. It's in the locked doors you can't open, the air you're breathing without knowing it's poison, the friend who never comes back, the walls that won't stop closing in, and the stranger hiding behind a mask. Because once the game begins, you don't always know what's real and what isn't. Some players walk out with smiles. Some don't walk out at all. So the next time you step into an escape room and hear the door lock behind you, remember, the scariest part might not be the game. It might be that you were never meant to escape. Sweet dreams, players, until the next story.